found it.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
And you want it to use your microphone.
1, 2, 3. Logitech. Okay. And I want, what did you say?
You want to make sure that it's using for input and output your microphone, I mean your headset, and not the
Yes.
computer audio.
I selected it, but there is no enter or anything.
Sometimes you have to go in and go
Okay.
out
I got it.
for it to work. Now it's working. Great.
Yes, I can hear you. Well, thank you.
Perfect.
Okay. I'm trying to remove this Ningxi from the background. It's too much compared to you. But it took me 2 hours last night to be able to put it. I got the green screen, and then I don't know how to do it.
Good morning, everyone. Do you guys hear me well?
Yes.
Yes, I wonder.
That
Hello.
was a very timid yes.
Yes.
Not very convincing. Okay, great. So
Your-
I'm going to
your
mute my
image is
microphone
fuzzy,
for now.
though. Your image is fuzzy.
My image is fuzzy. It's because I'm in the sun. I'm sunbathing. I'm getting ready for vacation.
That's better.
Okay. I have a lot of sunlight coming into where I am. So I'm going to cut my mic for now, okay? So it's a quick sound check on the interpreters. Let me hear the English interpreter, please.
Testing, testing. Good morning, everybody.
Please. Testing the Japanese channel, please. Ria. Hey, how are you? Very good. I hear you fine. Great, thank you. Going to, thanks for being with us. Italian, going to Italian. For that. Canale italiano. Ok, benissimo, benissimo. Ok, grazie mille. Spanish, Jorge Pérez. Jorge Pérez, nuestro compañero en Chile, Santiago de Chile. Muy buenos días, están todos muy bien. Y al final, português Camila em México. Olá, tudo bem? Pode falar mais alto um pouquinho, Camila, se precisar. Pouquinha coisa. Tá ótimo, tá sensacional. Maravilha. Okay, we're all good as far as the interpreters are concerned, and we're good to go.
Testing one more time. I'm here. Huh? Yeah. Yes.
Perfect.
Yes, we hear
yes.
you, Annabelle,
Okay.
yes.
And you should also see the desktop I'm sharing on presentation tab.
For that, when I talk a little bit about the studios, at that point, it would be good if you could show, well, you don't have anything, I guess, on the presentation about that. No, never mind.
We can explain.
Okay.
So Dave, once you said, please release your microphone, Dave, in the conference room.
Thank you.
Oh, we're about to start.
Yeah, one more minute and we're off to a great start. Just as a practice, it would be great if we can mute our microphones while we're not speaking.
I'm good, I'm good. Thank you.
So I'm the first one, right?
Always, Renato, always.
Okay, I'm getting ready here for my... How many people do we have already?
150 and counting.
Oh, good. Okay. So it's 8 o'clock. Let me know when we're live.
So Renato, it's 11,
Okay.
5 p.m. in Europe. We can get started.
Okay. Are we live? Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are. Welcome to the official release of kudo 2.0 and the expert panel discussion on the future of online meetings. I am Renato Beninato. I am the CEO of Nimdzi. I've been in this industry for 35 years. Nimdzi is this is not kudo, this is Nimdzi, which is a consulting and research company for the localization space. I'm also a podcaster, and I am the co-author of the General Theory of the Translation Company, and I will be your moderator today. Before I introduce my guests, let me quickly tell you how we hope to spend the next 40 to 45 minutes before we open the floor for questions. This will be a multilingual panel, and panelists will be speaking in English, French, Portuguese, and Spanish as they take turns. The meeting is being interpreted live in these languages and also in Japanese and Italian by interpreters working out of Kudo studios all over the world. Please feel free to choose the language you want to follow for the program, and you can do so by clicking on the language selector button on the left corner of your screen or under your video window if you're following from a mobile device. We have about 160 people watching us live on 4 continents. Participants are also speaking from 3 different locations. I am in Seattle. We have Central California and New York City. We're going to quickly review this new technology called kudo, which we're experiencing now, and then we'll dive into what will hopefully be an interesting discussion about the trends in the language industry, the future of online meetings, and what new platforms such as kudo mean for global markets and for buyers and sellers of language services. But we also want to hear from you. You will be leaving about 10 minutes for questions at the end of the panel, so please hold your questions for the end. But without further ado, let me now circulate the panel and let them introduce themselves. Catherine, let me start with you. Feel free to speak in Spanish if you want.
Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a great pleasure to participate. I am speaking in Spanish, but it is not my native language, and I hope this doesn't complicate life for the interpreters. I am an interpreter. I am an instructor of interpreters, and I'm also the co-president with Barry Slaughter Osen of an organization called Interpret America. We have we've dedicated a lot of effort to remote interpretation, and it's in that capacity that I'm here today. Thank you.
Catherine, I'd like now to hear from Annabelle Gazo.
Bonjour à tous.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be part of this discussion today. I am in New York, where I am marketing director for Media Vision, as well as an affiliate company, Conference Rental. We provide conference systems and interpretation systems for permanent facilities as well as events. We have a strong presence in Europe and North America. Our clients are very demanding when it comes to quality. We work with governmental institutions, large corporate groups, and international organizations. For 9 years now, I've always been focused on promoting high quality hardware, but still staying open to cutting edge technology. And that is why we've invested in opening a kudo studio. Thank you.
Well, now Evandro Magalhães, why don't you introduce yourself? Muted.
I'm muted. I was muted. Okay, you can never be too sure, so I was muted on my cable as well.
This is real life. Okay,
Okay.
there we go.
Ok, não, em português não. Eu estava
I was saying it's a great pleasure to me. It's not every day that I have the opportunity to introduce myself in my native tongue, Portuguese. As you know, I'm the only Brazilian who is getting sunbathing here while everyone else is working. I'm Evandro Magalhães. I'm a conference interpreter, have been for many years. I had a famous translation agency for many years in Brazil, about 18 years in Brasilia, de Press. I'm very proud of that. After some time, I migrated to the United States, studied at the Monterey Institute. Catherine Allen was one of my classmates. I'm very proud of that. And from there, I took off to Washington, began interpreting there and developing high-level contacts. And then from there, I went for an experience at the United Nations. I was the chief interpreter at ITU, the International Communications Union. I was there for 6 years and had the opportunity to begin developing contact with technologies that would come to be in the future what we have today as kudo. We'll be talking more about that later, but I'm going to stop for now. I thank everyone for being present here. I'm Vice President of Communications of kudo. So in the future, we will be in touch, I'm sure, and I hope quite frequently. Thank you very much.
Now, Fardad, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about your role?
Thank you, Renato. It's a great pleasure to be on this panel, especially today. It's a launch day for Kudo version 2. Fardad Zabetian, I'm a founder and CEO of Kudo. I've been in the multilingual technology space, conferencing and language interpretation for the last 20 years. I'm very passionate about enabling people to communicate effectively and efficiently together with each other in different languages. I already have 2 businesses. Both of them are quite successful in this space. In September 18 of 2012, when we got a phone call that we got awarded for providing the technology platform for the entire United Nations project in New York, I thought that, wow, this is my pick in my career, and this is the unicorn. Then today, I'm very happy to share another pick, another revolution in technology for multilingual communication with you. So thank you very much, and back to you.
Fardad, well, you've been in the space for quite a while, as you described, and this is the release of a new version of this platform. So why Kudo and why now?
Well, Kudo is born to address very specific needs. Yes, I've been in this space for 20 years. We have a great journey in the last 20 years and still going on. There is a huge value for people to meet in person, in the events, in the venues, and network and handshake. We recognize that. But we recognize how much of the meetings are going into the cloud, how much of the conversations we're having with the people are based in a video collaboration, online meetings. And Kudo is born to address that need. In today's cloud-based meetings, 68% of people who are doing business in the US, they only met through online tools, video collaboration. And of course, more and more meetings are becoming decentralized, and Kudo is here to address those needs for multilingual collaboration. So of course the question is, there is already so many video collaboration tools out there. Cisco, WebEx, Zoom, GoToMeeting, um, uh, just to name a few. But there is the missing layer of language in all those platforms. And we at Kudo really believe language is the main ingredient of communication. So not relying on people with limited English proficiency and assuming that people understand what we're communicating. As one said, when you speak a foreign language, you say only what you can. But when you speak your own language, you say what you really want and mean.
That's a very interesting take, Fardad. I wonder how this concept resonates with the established, large, more conventional players in the market. So, Annabelle, your company is responsible for large AV projects and conference systems installations in the United States, in the French Senate, and in other organizations. So you also, your business leases high-end equipment for large events for the International Monetary Fund, if I'm not mistaken, in their annual meetings and the G20 summits. So these are environments where failure is really not an option. So how do you think the market will react to a meeting platform based on something as elusive as cloud computing? And is there space for a platform like Kudo in settings that are so unforgiving?
Absolutely, yes. But I think the market's reaction will largely depend on the type of communication used to present and promote the Kudo platform. These clients have very high quality standards. They don't want to hear any talk of replacing traditional technology, and rightfully so. But what's good with Kudo is that this product isn't aiming to replace hardware that is set up on site in convention centers. Rather, Kudo is positioning itself as a supplement that can bring more people in to participate in meetings in their own language, and also to extend interpretation to maybe shorter secondary meetings that otherwise would not have had interpretation, often for budget reasons, but also for technical reasons. Even today, the largest international organizations whom we work with, they're facing issues with communication. And in particular, when it comes to video conferencing, they're having problems. So I think for the technical teams on site, it's very clear Kudo is an effective technology that responds to a need to which there is no solution currently. As long as the audio quality is there, and I think we can all agree that it is there now, well, these organizations will happily accept this new technology, I think. So it's really about synergy with existing technology.
I think you're muted, Evandro. Renato.
Real life.
Again.
We always forget something. There we go. So I said that I see that this is a very strong point of view, but nothing happens without the interpreters. So Catherine, interpreters are really key to successful international mediation, and your organization, Interpret America, with Barry, positions itself as raising the profile of the interpreting profession. Do innovations like Kudo and other remote interpretation platforms help you achieve that? Because every time I talk to interpreters about new technologies, they seem resentful to be pushed out of the room, and I wonder if Is this an overreaction?
Bueno, yo creo que hay dos preguntas.
I believe you've just asked me two questions. First, yes, these technologies can help raise the profile of the profession, and I would say that absolutely yes. In fact, communications are expanding at such a rate that it's almost out of control, and that's why we're seeing these new technologies that are trying to connect people around the world with video and excellent audio connections because there are no longer any geographic barriers to communications. The problem that we do see is that this is such a harsh and fast change that interpreters and people in the interpretation business are fighting to make adjustments and accommodate the change. And I think that's why we're seeing sometimes a negative reaction because they fear that new technology will worsen their working conditions. They fear that technology will replace interpreters. And furthermore, they don't have a clearly defined avenue for developing the skills needed for an interpreter to interpret using a platform that is video technology, new technology. It requires some training. It requires learning some new habits in order to interpret well and learning how to use a new software platform. I can see that, yes, it's a great opportunity for the profession in truth because we are needed more than ever in the world, but we still haven't seen, as a profession, we still have not seen how we can integrate the interpreters into these technological changes. So I think that's the goal we have ahead of us. That's what we need to take on now and figure out how to incorporate the interpreters so that they might be able to protect their working conditions and use the new technologies in a positive way that is positive for them as well.
Essentially what I hear, and I see that you need to embrace the technology to understand what are its challenges first. And I'm glad to hear that you're investing your efforts in this. But Evandro, you are also an interpreter, and before you joined Kudo, you were working, as you said before, at the United Nations, I think in Geneva for several years. Is there pressure inside the international organizations, which are the traditional big buyers of conference interpreting? Do you think that large players like the United Nations will ever adopt alternative meeting methods and remote interpretation to a serious extent? Or is this just in a tentative phase?
Well, actually the UN, for example, and the other large organizations are already in the process. Sorry, let me go back. I'm supposed to speak Portuguese at last.
I was saying that the United Nations and other large multinational organizations not only want to move in this direction, but they have already moved quite a ways down the road in seeking a system that might be efficient for remote communication, whether that includes interpreters present or not in the room. My involvement with kudo, in fact, the reason why I'm here is derived from my experience at the ITU, where we introduced very successfully something that we call remote participation. Remote participation is a slightly different idea. You have everyone in the same room, the chair of the session, the speakers, the delegates, and the interpreters all present together. But someone unable to attend the meeting, people who like those who are not with us here in New York or Seattle today are participating remotely. They can listen in to the language that they choose and they can participate with the benefit of interpretation. That's a system that we introduced at the UN, and it was incumbent upon me to sell major actors on this idea. We were able to do that by giving a voice to interpreters, involving them in the change, and working closely with them to establish something that would make sense from an interpreter standpoint. So not only are we moving forward, the United Nations is actively seeking remote interpretation solutions that will allow UN New York to use resources in other duty stations. So not only are the large organizations doing this, but small organizations that cooperate internationally all can benefit from a system like this one. Thank you.
These are great insights that we got from everybody, but I think this is a good point in our conversation to look at some of the features of this technology that you're launching. So I would like to get the microphone back to you, Evandro, and maybe you can do this in English this time, and show to us how the polling feature works.
Very good, Renata. Thank you. Yes, we're very excited with this additional feature in Kudu. And again, we're very excited to have most of you speak from where you are, Seattle in the case of Renato, California for Catherine, the three of us in New York City. But we know there are people all over the world following us from everywhere. And we would like to know exactly where you are from. So let us do this. Let's try a little polling, which is a feature that we have in Kudu. So what I've done now is I've started a vote. Have I? Yes, I've started a vote. So those following on the cell phone should have gotten a prompt asking you whether you want to participate in a poll. Go ahead and follow the instructions and choose your option. If you're following from a computer, you will notice that the button on the sidebar called polls just got a red dot. So go to that, click on it, and you're going to see a question. Where are you connecting from? So we would love to know where you're connecting from. So click to open the question, choose your option. So I'm going to go ahead and choose North America and submit the vote. And after that, you can close the polling window if you want. So I'm going to give everyone another 5 seconds or 10 to make sure you find the right place to click. Submit your vote and cast your vote. And then I'm going to go ahead and end the vote. And that's what I'm doing now. And subsequently, I'm now publishing the results. Okay, so the results have been published. So if you go back to the polling thing, you can now go to the subsequent tab, which is polling results. And then you see those who voted where they are. Not everyone voted, we can see. But those who voted, 17 of them are in South America. 23 of us are in North America. You have 18 people in Europe. And we have some early birds in Asia and who are actually following us. Nobody in Australia, unfortunately. Interestingly enough, if you're following this from a computer, you can also choose to see the results graphically. So you have a pie chart and you also have a bar chart. You just have to click on the icons and you're going to see the results on your screen. And then of course you can click on the X to go back. So very interesting to see that a lot of us are spread, pretty much all of us, we are all spread through at least 4 continents, and that's really nice. So back over to you, Renato. Very exciting.
Thank you, Evandro. So moving on, let me suggest that we lower the altitude a little bit for this conversation from this 10,000 feet to a kind of a bird's eye view of the reality. We're still in this in flying mode. For that, what is new about Kudo 2.0 and what does it mean for the corporate world? Are you changing your focus from large conferences to decentralized meetings? What is the business model behind this?
Thank you, Renato. So we launched Kudo version 1 in September last year. And our primary focus at that time, based on our background and experience, was for larger events that is being a presenter presenting a topic to an audience. And then we're not changing our focus, but we're adding features in response to specific market demands in the last few months when we have launched Kudo to begin with. We are seeing more and more applications for web conferencing and video collaboration for corporate sector, private sector, enterprises. So what we did, we added the feature of web conferencing and boardroom to Kudo. So Kudo version 2, you can have multi-speakers as we're doing it, and you can even connect your boardroom, huddle room, and be one space in Kudo platform. So basically, the idea is that with we're going to go to the kind of a business model, but with a very small fee, your boardroom is open to speak to the world. Your boardroom is able to connect globally and close that deal with your client in Japan, in Italy, and you can now connect with version 2 to be able to discuss a patent case amongst lawyers, US patent versus European patent law. And you can do it without the travel expense, with live human supported simultaneous interpreters, save time for both parties, and that's really what Kudo 2 brings to the table. Our business model is also very straightforward. It's either it's a subscription base or on demand. So if you're a frequent user, you're using Kudo for your webinars, weekly webinars, all-hand meetings, product training. So subscription makes more sense. You have a package, monthly fixed hourly rate that you pay, and your price is lower, more affordable. The other model is basically on demand. So you want to schedule, you want to plan a meeting. It's more for meeting planners, daily venues, and it's a daily based model per users. So that's really what's unique about Kudo 2. So now I want to ask everybody to go ahead and select Presentation tab. One thing that we really add in Kudo version 2 is the way to engage our audience. So when you use Kudo, all of these presentation, press releases, pictures, and so on, it's available for you on the document section on the right side. So you can download, so you can make these documents available to your attendees. Also, all of these polls going to be also recorded in your smartphone, in your account. So you can always go back and access those information. Now, if you can look at the Presentation tab, please. Again, I want to just going over some of the features and benefits. So Kudo version 2 is really off the shelf. You can use Kudo on your browser. You don't need to download any plugin, any application. That's the case for others. So as long as you're on a Chrome browser, you can use your computer and attend the meeting. If you're on mobile, you are remote, on the move, using your smartphones, we have iOS and Android apps, and then you can basically be connected through 3G, 4G, LTE, or preferred Wi-Fi. But you have video, audio, interpretation, you have the archiving, polling, document sharing, and Q&A. So if you're doing a medical conference, you can turn everybody's cell phone to a microphone to be able to ask a question during the Q&A time. And you as a moderator also could be able to manage those requests. One feature that we implemented in Kudo is audio fallback, which we prioritize audio over video. So as you notice, sometimes because of the bandwidth changes, we might see some differences in the quality in the frame per second on the video, but our priority is audio. We keep audio intact. We believe audio matters for the communication, and once the conditions improve and the connectivity restored, then we bring the video back to HD quality. So that's kind of a quick feature list. We're very excited. I'm really proud of our team who've been working about 2 years on Kudo version 2. The other thing that is we invested also in the infrastructure, stability of the product, ease of use, and as you see, we have a great audio and video connectivity in multiple languages. Thank
That's
you.
impressive for that. Thank you. So I'd like to turn back to Annabelle. You own a company and you are obviously an early adopter of Kudo, and you are Kudo certified studio partner. So how has this impacted your business? Are you
No, not at all. We have made major investments in interpretation hardware that is top of the line, infrared receivers to broadcast different languages. And we are still very much showcasing this hardware for conference facilities. So our teams aren't making any changes in that regard. As I was saying earlier, Kudo is not aiming to replace these solutions. Rather, it aims to act as a complement. For example, we supported a series of conferences in London and New York. We had a traditional interpretation system on site with local interpreters. And then we also implemented Kudo for multilingual streaming, and that was to reach foreign investors who could not travel to the meetings. So it's really about collaboration between the different services. And then from a business perspective, thanks to Kudo, more and more actors can now access optimized communication in their own languages. So they'll understand the benefits in their own languages. And so basically that only expands the market across all language services, including for traditional interpretation services. So no, it's really not in competition with us. Rather, I think the more partners and the more Kudo studios there are, the more we'll see growth for all services.
That makes sense. And I'd like to turn now back to Evandro and as far as I understand, the interpreters in this call are calling from different Kudo studios. What is the idea behind Kudo Studio? Can't the interpreters just work from home? Isn't there a contradiction in the fact that the idea of remote interpreting is to remove the travel and the need to move around for interpreters and participants if you have to be in a studio to be doing the interpretation?
Thank you, Renato.
In Portuguese, well, the issue has to do with control, with quality control. Obviously, an interpreter, I mean, Kudo has some very tight, the connection that's needed for, or the requirements for a good connection are slight. You need an interpreter, a webcam, a computer. In principle, an interpreter would be able to interpret from wherever he or she might be. So it's possible. Yes, you could interpret from a cafe, from an airport, from a hotel, from wherever you might be. But as an interpreter, I understand that interpretation is a team effort. Interpreters do not work in isolation unless an event is quite short. So you have your colleague next to you in the studio. You can support each other. There's some mutual support in the effort to guarantee the best final product. In addition to that, you have quality control in a studio that you cannot give being at home unless an interpreter were to invest heavily out of their own pocket to eliminate all things that might have a negative impact on communication. For example, I remember an interview with a consultant, a BBC consultant, and at some point, you've seen the video of the guy who's doing an interview, and then his child runs in the room, and I think the dog ran in the room, and then the woman who took care of the children had to run in and rescue that situation. Inevitably, someday a dog will bark, the neighbor will yell, or a siren might come flying by, as happens here in New York every few minutes. So the issue of a kudo studio is we are trying to, working with our partners, the LSPs, we're trying to create a network of professionally outfitted studios that would offer the same equipment that an interpreter is accustomed to in a what they would have in their home, but being controlled completely to ensure quality connections and quality delivery, so that we want to be able to certify that an interpreter, wherever he or she may be, will be working next to a high quality colleague, and to thereby ensure excellent working conditions, conditions that our profession has worked decades to earn and establish and hold. So Kudo is not trying to dissipate this. This is technology that depends on interpreters. We listen to interpreters, and we're trying to move forward with interpreters by our side to assure quality for all. This call, for example, and I just have just another minute here, Renato, I'll wrap up. In today's call, we have 4 interpreters that are working from studios. We have 2 that are not. They are working from remote locations. But these are colleagues that I know, whom I've worked with. We worked closely with them before to make sure that their quality met the standards that we have.
Take on this. This sounds like a very good marketing pitch from an interpreter who jumped to the other side. Too good to be true?
Catherine, I think the question is to you.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear my name come out. Well, no creo. O sea, pensando, escuchando en todo.
Well, as I listen to what you all are saying, Barry and I have seen and have followed these technologies and the process in which they've been developing over the last decade. Early on, most of them were created by companies that had nothing to do with interpretation or with delivering linguistic services. But they could see the growing demand, and they saw the opportunity to make big money at that, and they thought they would find magic solution that would offer simultaneous interpretation at every moment in every situation. Everybody would love that. We all would love to just push a button and have access to perfect, high-quality interpretation without having to pay for it and without having to invest in interpreters and with the resources necessary to do that. But now, with technologies like Kudo and other brands, we are seeing that interpreters are working as teams. They're working with interpreters who truly understand the profession, and we see that these models do work. I see a lot of potential here, a lot of opportunities for interpreters to continue working, maintaining their high levels of professionalism, their excellent working conditions. And I wanted to mention, last year in October at Interpret America, we held our 6th conference on remote interpretation. We called together many players, and we all talked about the problems and the solutions, and what we saw is that we are further along in progress here than we had thought. Shortly, we will be publishing the outcomes of those meetings, in the hopes that we will be able to advance best practices. But with Kudo and platforms like this, I can see that we are moving in the right direction.
So I think we've had a fantastic conversation here today, and we have been able to look at this opportunity from several angles. The angle of the business, of course, we're launching a new platform. The angle of the service provider, with Annabelle telling us how the technology fits in the stack of services that they provide. The angle of the interpreter, with several concerns that have arisen, and my personal take here as an analyst and a consultant looking at this space is that we are at the early stages of a major shift in technology which is the adoption of certain behaviors and the augmentation of the services that we provide. One of the challenges that we see in the language industry in general is the resistance from traditional players to adopt new technologies because they're afraid that the technologies come to replace their place in the business, when in reality, after a few years, they end up realizing that these technologies actually enable them to expand their services and to increase the opportunity. So for me, it's very interesting, and thank you for inviting me to moderate this panel, in the sense that I can see very well where this technology is going to not replace what we're doing, and I don't see that this is your goal, but it's going to essentially create new opportunities and expand the market for simultaneous interpretation. So before we open the floor to questions, I would like to get back to you, Fardad, and ask if you have any final thoughts and how the people who are listening to our conversation today can join this revolution, this change. What are the next steps? How should they proceed?
So we are in the business to grow the size of the multilingual meetings space as a whole. We are basically creating a subcategory, a new market that is bridging the traditional language interpretation and the web conferencing. So we're bringing the expertise of language interpretation background and merging it with the web conferencing. So we're creating a subcategory. This is not a replacement for what's been working for most of the established interpretation market. We are basically bringing a tool for businesses to be able to communicate and to get into new opportunities at very minimum cost and investment. If you're following this meeting and we want you to be part of this journey with us, if you are from an enterprise, from a business, from a corporate, here is a tool for you, for your CEO, for your product management team to communicate that awesome message to your global audience clearly, effectively, in their language. If you are attending this session, joining us for version 2 launch from an organization, here's a solution for you to be able to do video conferencing, to be able to provide access to people who are not able to come to the venue because of schedule conflict, because of not having the proper visa, or having a flight cancellation. If you are an LSP, and if you are in the business of providing language interpretation to your clients, here's an additional tool for you to be able to offer a solution for them on a regular basis, because those annual meetings, they tend to have a lot of working committees before and after. But at least I want to communicate with interpreters on the call, saying that, as Evandro mentioned, we got your back. We are committed to provide good working conditions. We have developed our interpreter interface to be as familiar for you, with quick onboarding classes that we put in, but also we want to listen to you. We're here to listen to you and develop and move in this journey together. So that's my message. We're just in the beginning of this journey. We're just scratching the surface. But I see a huge opportunity for us and our partners to grow in this market.
Thank you for that. Very impressive and lofty goal. So, Evandro, I want to give this back to you since you're the man in control of the dashboard. And why don't we take some questions from the audience?
I was about to enjoy my sunbathing. Now you're calling me. I thought it was done. It's not fair. Okay. I'll be happy to do that. I'll be happy to do that. Thank you very much. So here's the deal now. So I'm going to go back to English now. So everybody on the call. Go ahead, Ferdad.
Yeah, we have Gio actually requesting to speak.
Yes, but let me tell everyone what the plan is. I can clear them from here, Ferdad, through the operating window. So the plan is this. We now would like to break for questions, so feel free to ask questions from where you are. And we would privilege those who have a good headset in order to provide good audio for the interpreters. If you do take the floor, feel free to speak in one of the languages of the panel, Spanish, French, Portuguese, or English, and our interpreters will do the job as we go. So Gio Lester, my good friend in Miami, let me come to you. Have you been accepted? I guess you have, right, Ferdad? You accepted, Gio?
Yes.
Okay. So Gio, go ahead. You're free to speak whenever you can.
Obrigada. É prazer imenso estar aqui com vocês. Vocês me ouvem?
Ouvimos pouco.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Do you hear me well? Where it's a little soft there? Yeah, well, it's a great pleasure to be here with you. And I'm very proud to be participating in the kudo launches from the beginning of last year, 2017 in August. And I just wanted to congratulate you for all that you have been able to achieve thus far. I feel like I'm one of the people that I feel like I gave myself and gave birth to kudo with you. And I feel very, very proud, very happy to see the ground you have been able to cover, what you've been able to achieve. So congratulations. That's it. Thank you, Giovanna. It's great to hear from you. I'd like to ask you now to release your mic.
Hear you as always. So let me now go back to Barry Olson, who's following us from California. Barry, I've just cleared you to speak. Go ahead and ask your question.
A ver, ahí está. Muy bien, ya me deben ver y me deben...
Great. Well, now you can see me and you can hear me. First of all, I would like to thank all of the interpreters who have participated in this call and congratulate you for the excellent work you've done. I have had the opportunity to listen in on the different channels, and the interpretation is top shelf, and the quality of audio is as well. So I congratulate the kudo team for what you've been able to achieve with this version of the platform. I do have a question, and it is a very specific question. It has to do with the capability to record. Can you record presentations, audio and video, for those people who would like to watch the meetings at a subsequent time? I asked this question because I saw on Twitter, I received the question, are they going to be recording this launch? Because she was not going to be able to be here for the meeting. So thank you.
Take a question. I think you're better suited to answer it.
You would like me to answer, Evandro?
If you want.
Yes.
Yeah.
Evandro, Barry, thank you. Thank you for your comments and all your guidance throughout this very exciting experience since we've been working on Kudo platform. You're a mentor to us. Now, about your question about archiving, yes, we do have archiving feature at Kudo that you can always go back to previous meetings and be able to access those recordings in your own language on through your smartphones or just log in on your computer platform. We have not activated this feature yet because we are just not sure how much of a server space we need to have, and there is some basically commitment that we need to provide. But that feature is available on demand basis now, but the goal is to make this available for enterprises to be able to have access to all the previous recordings on the user stage. Thank you.
So back to me, I guess, right? So let me now clear the next one on the list, and that would be Lourdes de la Torre. Lourdes, I've just accepted you to speak, so please go ahead. You have the floor. I was not muted, was I?
No, I think
I'm
she
good.
came in and she bumped out.
Oh, okay. Let me accept you again. Okay. There you go, Lourdes. You're good to go now.
We lost her again.
So we're having an issue with Lourdes. Lourdes, stay with us another second. Let me go to someone else. Let me see who's next on the list. We have a lot of people asking to speak. So I'm going to go with Rajesh Kafli, whom I think is with the United Nations. So please go ahead. You've been cleared to speak.
Oh, do you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, finally. Thank you so much for this good presentation. I just wanted to ask one question from the accessibility point of view. I wanted to know whether you have a provision for closed caption, real-time captioning. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. Let me ask you that you please mute your loudspeaker or leave the question. You can still hear my question. Just release the microphone so we don't get the echo. Thank you very much for your question. We are in the process of accommodating that. It's something easy to do in Kudo. We haven't yet incorporated it, but we were just last week talking to a few providers who are helping us get this up and running in no time. So yes, we can accommodate. The question is whether we're going to do it from transcription, automatic transcription, or if we're going to enlist the help of human transcribers and closed captioners. And we're tending more towards the latter. Thank you very much for your question. Let me now go to Marc Duvernois from the OECD in France. Marc, vous avez la parole.
Je unmute mon micro.
I am unmuting my mic. Hello. So I'm speaking to you from Paris today. Your new version is great. Everything is working perfectly from my end. I have a question. To expand the audience, would it be possible to link a live session like this one with a platform like YouTube or perhaps Facebook Live, something like that? Might it be possible to link the two technologies together? Are you capable of providing a video stream and put it on a relay platform to reach a broader audience.
Merci Marc pour ta question.
Thank you for your question, Mark. Please mute your mic. Thank you. I think yes, but I'm going to let Fardad give a better answer to that.
Mark, I want to start first with saying thank you so much to join us on your May 8th holiday from France. We know everybody is on vacation this week, so we really appreciate your presence. We're working on a second mode, which is a broadcast mode. So right now our limitation is about 3,000 participants per language. So right now we're having 6 languages. We can accommodate up to 18,000 people on this call. But if you really want to go on a mass audience, such as web stream, we will be working on plugins to be able to connect to off-the-shelf YouTube, Facebook platforms for distribution to a larger audience. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And let me echo the words for that, Mark. Thank you very much for being with us. Let me now go to somebody else whom I guess is from Brazil, judging from the name, Adriana Machado. I'm going to go ahead and clear you to speak. You have the floor.
Me ouvem?
Sim, eu vi.
Can you hear me? I am an interpreter, a freelance interpreter in São Paulo at this time. I'm spending my vacation in Denmark, and that's why I'm using this weak headset. But I would like to make a comment and a request. The comment is that the audio quality is excellent, and you've been speaking about other platforms like WebEx. WebEx dominates the great majority of large corporations for every type of meeting. In Brazil, people in Brazil are working very little with remote interpretation. The only ones who do this kind of work would be American agencies, foreign companies. I've never been able to get remote simultaneous interpretation. I think my first opportunity will be tomorrow. It's through WebEx, and I'm worried about this. I would be much more at ease if we were working with Kudo, because I know that your sound quality is so much better for interpreters. Working with WebEx sometimes has quality issues for an interpreter. And my request would be, could you do a session for interpreters to show how the panel works? What is the console like in the Kudo platform? I've worked with that. I've seen other platforms, and you mentioned it, or the benefit of working next to your colleague. You have I've worked in a platform where you do have the ability to communicate with our colleagues, even though they are not in the same physical location. But sometimes we need to exchange notes and answer questions. So I would request that you do a presentation tailored for interpreters so that we can see how it works. I believe this will break down a lot of the resistance that you have mentioned that exists among interpreters for using these types of tools. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Muito obrigado, Adriana, por sua participação. Obrigado pelos elogios que fez à plataforma. Ficamos muito orgulhosos. Deixa eu te dizer duas coisas. Na verdade, nós já realizamos esses seminários para intérpretes.
Thank you, Adriana. I'd like to say a couple of things. We've held these meetings for interpreters. About every 2 weeks, we have a webinar strictly for interpreters. I'm sending through your chat window to all participants the URL where you can go see what our upcoming dates will be and sign up for the next one. During this call, at one point during this call, we had as many as 20, and we've had as many as 20 interpreters working on these calls, where we have all of them taking relay one from another. Many of the interpreters that are working with us today have a number of passive languages, and sometimes they do miss a language and need to take relay. So the address I just sent you is kudo1.com/onboard. You can go and see what the next date we have scheduled for. Something else we're thinking about is we have an online course for training interpreters. It's not just a simple tutorial telling you to click here or there. It's a 2-hour full tutorial. You'll have to see a number of videos. You walk through a series of courses, things that you'll need to know to, we'll deal with every issue related to working with the kudo interface so that you can work as a comfortable professional. So I just sent you the address for that, certification.kudo1.com is that more extensive course. I think I put HTTPS. It should just be HTTP. So thank you very much. If you want to get in contact with me later, I'd be happy to talk more with you about this. Thank you.
Well, I think we are at the top of the hour, and this is a very good time for us to close this session. Thank you so much to all the participants and to the questions that were raised, very insightful, and I see that I want also to congratulate Kudo on an excellent launch. And I'll see you next time. Have a great day.
Not so fast, Renato. Wait,
so fast.
hold.
Okay.
We have to make some acknowledgements.
Okay.
Right,
please.
first to you for being such a gracious moderator, and of course to all our panel members, Annabelle Gazzo and Catherine Allen, who woke up really early after a full day of assignments in Washington, D.C. I'm very, very grateful to you, Catherine, for being here with us. And to my colleague and partner and CEO, Fardad Zabation, for being such a good colleague and a good inspiration to all of us. We're doing a lot of good things together. Really, really proud to see. Now, I also wanted to thank the interpreters. And Fardad, could you please share your presentation again and go to one of the last pages where they can all see the names of the interpreters. Janet Becerra, Rebecca Klingman, French interpreter. Janet is here with us in Spanish. You can see their names and you can see their languages. Let me make sure that I find it. There you go. Jorge Perez, who is our partner in Chile, Janet Becerra, Rebecca Klingman, Tom Norton, who is speaking in Ohio, out of Ohio today, and Violaine Tourny, who's in Toronto, Ria Iramatsu in London. I know that you were not working under the best conditions there, Ria, but still we could hear your interpretation all the time, and Alessandra Ciccarelli in Rome. So thank you dearly to all of you. We couldn't have made this without you. Thank you so much. And see you next time, as Renato said. Fardad, your final words, if any?
Thanks, everybody. Thank you. I know it's past 1 hour, and I want to make sure that we're not going past 1 hour for interpreters. So thank you. Exciting time. Have a good rest of your Tuesday.
One final thing. I'm sorry for those who were actually asking for the floor and we couldn't accommodate you because of the time. I'll be happy to come back to you and see what questions it was that you had. Okay, thank you so much. Take good care. Bye-bye.